Having the ability to turn 3D models into usable 2D line work is awesome. It is a huge time saver. I've used it before for comic books, and I've even made a tutorial, and I've linked one in the description below. But this is not about Pencil Plus. It's not about comic books. It's about 2D animation and using 3D for coloring. So this is something a little bit different. It's super exciting. I can't wait to share it with you guys. Let's get into it. So I've rendered out something very simple, just a really easy camera move in Maya using Pencil Plus, and this is what it looks like when you play it. So let's say we want to color this. What we would do is we would take the new layer, a new anim layer, and we would move it under the inks. I'm going with this particular shade of green. I like it, and I'm also using the clean, sharp line from Howard Wimshurst. I got this on Gumroad. I'll link it again in the description. I start coloring and nothing's happening. So let's lower the opacity, and you can see that the colors are actually there. So what that tells you is that this is a flattened image. The inks are flattened, they're not transparent, and transparent is clearly what we want. Oh, well, you might just say the easy solution to this is to simply take the inks and turn this layer into multiply. That always works, right? Yes, except in this case, this is the standard version of TVPaint, and as you can see, I don't have access to layer styles. That requires the Pro version, which is like $1,000 upgrade, and I just don't have the money to get the Pro version. And that's okay, we're gonna go about this a different way. Back in Maya, let's just go ahead and render it again. Now, the most important thing is that we're going to save this image or the sequence as a PSD. I'm going to call it 01, but the important thing is to save this as a PSD, not as any other type, including PNG, which is what I had originally done. And now when you import that image or image sequence as a PSD, look how it shows up in TVPaint. You can see that the background is transparent. So what that means is I can add a new anim layer as a color layer, and when I start to color, it looks just like you would expect it to. So we'll fast forward a little bit, and if we get close, we can actually see that it is a little bit janky. I'll use that word because it's not exactly colored in the lines. A little bit of some issues here, and that's also something that I wanted to talk about. So I could take the eraser and I could come in here on the left and I could start erasing it. And then I could treat it basically as if it were a comic book panel or a piece of artwork. Unfortunately, this is not a single piece of artwork. This is 24 frames per second, or 12, or 8. But the point is, I would need to do that every single time. I went ahead and I rendered everything out with PSDs. So you can see it is animating all on a transparent background, and we're ready to go. We're obviously not going to color every single frame if we don't have to. So back in Maya, let's go ahead and use surface shaders. Click on an object that you want to color, go down to Apply Favorite Material, Surface Shader. Now by default, it turns black. Just click on the black, choose whatever color you want, and in this case, because it's dirt, I'm gonna choose a brown color. The important thing in this case though is this color management box that you're looking at. It needs to be off. At least in my experience, I'm gonna recommend that you leave it off and you choose the color with it unchecked. Otherwise, the color is gonna come into your 2D program much differently than you're looking at on screen. So it's turned off right now, and I'm going to change it to the color that I think works, which is a little bit lighter. But what if I don't want the stems to be green? What if I want them to be brown? Well, in that case, I'm going to use the UV editor. First, let's change the module or the environment, whatever it's called, from rendering back to modeling. Now we go UV editor, and look at the UVs. If you don't have UVs, in this case, I would recommend you make some, but this one already has them. Right click, go to UV shell, and you can see very easily I have selected all of the stems. Now I just right click, I go down to surface shader once again, and I will choose this one. Okay, so there, I like that a lot better. Let me get rid of these windows and go back to the first frame. Now in the render settings, I'm going to make sure render using is set to Arnold, which has been the default for Maya since 2017. And image format should be TIFF. Nothing else, just TIFF, for coloring anyway. Down here, it would normally be name single frame or name.ext single frame. Obviously, we don't want single frame because we are rendering a sequence, not a single frame. So I just went down to this one at the bottom, and this is frame 0 to frame 47. Okay, we're all good there. Okay, so now we're gonna go to Arnold Renderer. We're gonna render it, and there we go. It looks really, really good. Now just go to render, render sequence. This is where you would choose where it goes, the folder that it's being rendered to, and you're gonna do render sequence. All right, so this is a really quick process because these are solid single colors, nothing fancy, but let's go ahead and go back to TVPaint. What we're gonna do is right click and do import footage. And right here under alpha, make sure it's not no alpha, because if you see it's no alpha and it's black background, it's gonna actually come in as a black background. All right, so I'm just gonna drag the colors under the inks like this and play it again. There you go, huge time saver. Well guys, that's gonna do it for now. I hope that was educational or at least somewhat entertaining. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I will do my best to answer them. I could have spent a couple more days, if not a week longer, editing this video, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Again, comment if you have any questions. If you like the video though, just please give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you are finding value out of these videos, consider subscribing to the channel. That would be awesome. And that's gonna do it for now. So thanks again, guys. Take care.